The maximum age to be hired by the government was 34, and I think I was 32. So I applied again, and this time got in. But now I'm dealing with my classmates who were literally 10 years younger than me. Our training was the longest training of any in the Secret Service. We went through 26 weeks of training. They were bomb detection dogs, but they were handler protection dogs. Before you brought that dog home, they don't want the liability of that dog attacking your family member, a stranger, neighbor, whatever. If you have the training and you drill enough, that's going to kick in. It's gonna. I don't want people to panic and think about this all the time. There's no way I should have teachers going to school thinking today could be the day.
When you look back in hindsight, everything is 2020. In hindsight, we make mistakes, we're learning from it. In hindsight, your today and your tomorrow. In hindsight, is so much clearer now.
Welcome to Hindsight the Podcast. I'm Lee Jones, your host. Look, imagine you're a parent dropping your child off at school only to hear about a horrific active shooter situation. It's a nightmare scenario that no one wants to think about. But the reality is, it's a growing problem in the U.S. Today, I'm fortunate enough to have a guest who's dedicated his life to protecting our schools and keeping our children safe. Joining me today is Daniel Dluzneski. I told you I was going to mess it up. A retired lieutenant in the United States Secret Service and former coordinator for the Emergency Management, Safety, and Security for Pinellas County Schools in Florida. Daniel's extensive experience in law enforcement and school safety makes him the perfect person to shed light on this critical issue. Good morning, Daniel. How are you doing this morning?
Lee, thank you so much for having me on. I appreciate it. An important subject. An uncomfortable subject, but thank you for having me on to talk about this.
Absolutely. Where are you calling in? Are you still calling in from Florida? Are you in Florida?
Yes, down in St. Petersburg, Florida. Moved here after I retired from the service in Washington, D.C. Been down here now, close to 10 years now.
Oh, wow. Oh, Florida. Washington. How was it in Washington, D.C.? That's from my neck of the woods. I was actually... I grew up in Prince George's County. I was born in Baltimore. So Daniel, welcome to the show. Calling in from Florida. Weather should be actually, you have a storm coming in, don't you?
No, that was out in the Gulf. Went up through Louisiana.
On the other side.
Avoided us. And then we've been very fortunate. I say not more than lucky, fortunate. We got hit a few years ago with, I think it was Ira, that kind of clipped us. Didn't do too much. It was more a storm surge than anything like that. But so far, we've been very fortunate. So still love to live here. I like the hot weather. And I grew up in Connecticut. And I kept I kept moving further south looking for warmer weather. And even Washington, D.C. was freezing cold. So I thought, okay, we got to move further south. But,
it definitely was. So it definitely is. All right. So Daniel, this is Hindsight the Podcast. So normally we'd go and we talk about and we're going to do that anyway. We're going to talk about your trek from Connecticut down south, right? But just to learn just a little bit about you, maybe what drew you into law enforcement, and just tell us just a little bit about yourself.
Well, the short version, I got into the service, actually, I was older. I tried once previously when I was much younger, and found out that it was very restrictive on the almost military standards of height and weight. And I didn't understand. I was just totally confused because they kept sending my paperwork back with that red magic marker like a teacher writes, like, your height must be in proportion to your weight. I thought, God, did I think I'm obese? And it was, I was underweight. And I was underweight by at least 13, 14 pounds. I'm like, what? I don't, just hire me. I'll gain the weight. No, government. They got to shut everything down. So me, dummy, instead of going to my doctor and saying, hey, doc, just wipe this out and add 13 pounds. I'll make it up somehow. No, I go through a weight training program that took me like over a month to gain the weight, with muscle and everything. So finally, okay, I'm ready to go. I made the weight. Here we go. And I send the paperwork back and they say, oh, God, you just missed the last class. Okay, well, when's the next one? Well, not for another year. I'm like, a year? Wow. I got to sit around waiting around for a year. So I went and knocked around different jobs. I worked for DHL, the Courier Express company, worked in a warehouse, did some security. did all kinds of odd jobs. I could always find work, but after a while, you get into your 30s, you're like, I got to start finding a career. So at that time, the maximum age to be hired by the government was 34, and I think I was 32. So I applied again, and this time got in. But now I'm dealing with my classmates who are literally 10 years younger than me. So here I am, the old man in this thing. So you know what? I did okay. And it actually worked out better for me because once I got on, my supervisors were my age. So I got along with them really well. And at that time, again, we're talking now, late 80s. I had my education, and a lot of the other classmates did not. Nowadays, most police departments, I would say at least 3/4 or more, have some kind of bachelor's degree or associate's degree. Back then, they didn't really need it. So I was one step ahead in that point, having my education, and I had my supervisors that were the same age as me. So I got other positions ahead of these other people. So it worked out. So I got into K-9 with only 3 years on, which was unheard of. And it just so happened that even though when I got into K-9, I still was the juniorist in time in to get a dog. So they gave me the black dog. And this is weird, but back then we used Belgian Malinois. I don't know if you know what they are. They're a smaller version of a German Shepherd. Most police departments have them now. And they're that same color as a German Shepherd, tan and black. Mine was all black. So every time, and they purchased the dogs over in Belgium. We didn't have an inbreeding a breeding program at that time. So they purchased them from overseas. Anytime they got a black dog, they were just absolutely nuts. Just crazy, would listen, biting, and all I kept hearing from the senior guys in Canada, I was like, oh boy, oh yeah, you're in trouble. This is not going to work out. And not to be gross, but they kept him in a kennel. They kept him in a concrete kennel.
Okay.
And he was a painter. Not to go into too much detail, but I
get it.
In his own, and then he would paint the walls everywhere he could in that kennel.
Wow.
And it was my responsibility to clean it every day. And every day I'd come in and the guys would just look at me shaking their head going, he did it again, Dan. And this is a dog I have to bring home eventually. Our training was the longest training of any in the Secret Service, even more than the counter snipers. We went through 26 weeks of training. And the reason for that was not only they were bomb detection dogs, but they were handler protection dogs. So they had to make sure before you brought that dog home, you can get them off because they don't want the liability of that dog attacking your family member, a stranger, neighbor, whatever. So I'm thinking, I got to bring this dog home. Now I'm all alone. Most people would say, okay, we'll build a cage for you outside. I'm not going to put a dog outside. And there I am in the house. Oh, there he is out there. Hi, how you doing? Okay, everything okay? No. So I'm like, oh my, what is this dog going to do when he gets in the house? And he was the greatest dog. Never did anything in the house. He was, my partner.
Right.
Anyway, that was just interesting because we got to go to some of the nicest hotels. We went ahead of the president, and it was just a really great career. But that was only part of my career. I was there for 24 years. I worked in public affairs. I was able to get training as a crime scene search technician. I did tours of the White House. I mean, it was just a really great career. And I finished up again, right through the ranks, finished up as lieutenant. I started right at the end of Reagan's term and finished up under Obama and then moved down here to Florida. I thought, okay, this is it. Grab a beer. I'm retired. I'm done. No, with an alpha personality, as you know, you can't sit still. I couldn't sit still. About 3 months after that, my wife, an ex-wife now, said, you got to do something. You got to get out of here. You got to do something. So the county had an opening for this safety and security coordinator for the school system. I thought, okay, fits my resume. And I got in and just still you're dealing with bureaucracy of a county or state government, but it worked out. The only thing was, it was just me. Just me. No help, no staff, nothing. I had, Lee, 100,000 students I had to take care of at 140 schools. It was
Wow.
overwhelming.
Let me write that
Here you
down.
go. You're on your own. Make them safe. See you later.
Mm-hmm.
And I did that for a while. And then it started getting frustrating because I did not have autonomy. I couldn't go to a school and say, you got to get that door fixed now, or this window needs to be fixed, or that, whatever.
Yeah.
I didn't have that autonomy. I had to go through this layer. I'm like, are you kidding me? This needs to be done now. So
Right.
that bothered me. And then, once Marjorie Stoneman Douglas happened in Parkland, in one respect, my bosses were like, okay, Dan, now you're going to get help. This is what happened right in our own state. You're good to go.
Right.
And the legislature just went the opposite direction. The legislature said, nah, we're going to have the police, local police take over safety and security. And I was like, oh, no. I'm former law enforcement. That was the wrong thing. Still is the wrong thing. Because police, as you know, are reactive. We're not proactive.
Right.
You don't have the time to be proactive. So I left and I just started a consulting business, wrote a book, and went on from there. But still involved in it, on LinkedIn and stuff. And the only thing I got to tell you, Lee, this will come up eventually.
Uh-huh.
This is an industry that's completely unregulated. There's no certificates, training, degrees. There's nothing out there that says, okay, we got it. You're an expert. Now you're a safety security expert. We trust you. There's nothing out there like that. Now, I don't really want the federal government involved with dealing with this anyways. I'd rather have the states deal with it. But really, anybody with probably either a education background, military background, or law enforcement background can say, hey, I'm a school safety security expert. I'm going to start a business. Hire me. I'm going to go around and do an assessment. You're good to go. Completely wrong. So there are some organizations, and there's a little bit of conflict going on now, that are trying to get what are called school district, an actual district safety and security person, meaning every school district should have this person that has a budget, that has autonomy, that is basically at the level of a superintendent or at least an assistant superintendent. So they don't have to go to anybody. They can get things done. And I think that's the way to go, as long as it's controlled by the states or the counties, the state government. But that's the one thing that I found frustrating and still find frustrating, that it's completely unregulated. So there's marketing people out there that have businesses that try to market certain things that we found out are pretty dangerous. And schools have been sued civilly because of these kind of dangerous things that they're doing with their children. So when I started this and I started doing podcasts, at first I was going to teachers saying, hey, teachers, here's what you need to do. Just have the confidence to do this. I learned it from the Secret Service. You drill just enough. You don't want to over drill. You drill just enough to give you confidence that if something happens, you don't panic. Here's what you need to do. Boom, 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 boom. Very easy. Yeah. Very easy. And you're good to go. Well, what was happening, it was teachers come back to me going, look, Dan, you make sense. But I'm getting directions from my superintendent or my school board telling me to do these other things. I'm like, oh, no. All right, okay. All right, let's talk to the parents, because I'm a lot older than you. But used to be, when you used to go to school, well, heck, you didn't think about guns. I mean, that's years ago. You'd go to school, drop your kid off, you're good. I'll pick you up after school. I'll pick you up after the event, after football, basketball, cheerleading, whatever. See you later. Good to go.
Right. Yeah.
Never would, nothing in your mind as a parent would say to you, gee, I need to ask how you're doing your fire drills, or how are you doing any emergency drills. That wouldn't even be in your mind. I mean, we've been doing fire drills for hundreds of years. You could do it with your eyes closed. And then, and I'm not going to say it was Columbine, because there were school shootings way before Columbine. The media just never covered them. Columbine was the one that kind of blew up because the media was all over it. Because it was, what their response was wrong. So now, and I got to tell you, I tell everybody, I tell parents, everybody, don't panic. It really is like being hit by lightning. The chances of you being attacked by an active shooter at a school are minuscule. It's 1 in however many million. However, the chances today, because what's been happening today is more weapons are showing up in schools. whether it's guns, knives, nunchucks, baseball bats, iron bar, whatever it is, more of that is happening. So here you have a teacher who, of course, did not go to school for this. They didn't sign up for this. They signed up to teach kids. That was their love. That was their passion. I want to see, you probably the same as me. I can remember one specific teacher in high school that I loved. I would go to them. They were a mentor. They got my interest in certain things. Today, yes, there are some of that. I have a son who just, he's in college now, but he found a teacher that was a mentor that he liked, and everything was good. But still, teachers today, the stuff you got to go through. Look, the pandemic messed everything up. It messed everything up. They're 2 years behind, Lee. Then you had to defund the police movement. Then you've got kids going. Then you find parents find out when they're looking at the computer going, wait, they're teaching you what? And then they got together and would go in front of school boards and say, look, I don't want critical race theory. I don't want this. I don't want that. So so parents do have the power, but it's just schools will circle the wagons. I've had that happen a few times. It's a bureaucracy. I mean, they're going to protect their own, obviously. But the communication, I don't know, it's in certain areas has gotten better. Certain areas, not so much. They don't trust parents. You see that, they'll do different things. And I tell parents, look, if you've got children, if you have a school you like that your children are going to, you like what they're getting good grades, they're not being bullied, they are improving, you do see some kind of joy in what they're doing, just ask them. I don't care if they're elementary school through high school. Sit them down for 30 seconds. How are they running emergency drills at your school? Everybody knows about fire drills. We don't need to talk about that. How are they running emergency drills? I don't care if it's a bomb threat, if it's an active shooter, if there's a weapon in school, whatever it is. How are they doing that? What do you have to do? And if you hear things like, well, they have us run out of the classroom if there's an active shooter. All right. Well, okay, what else? Yeah. Well, if a gunman shows up in our classroom, we're supposed to throw things at him to distract them. Like, what? Wait a minute. That doesn't, how come? Anyways, come to find out, a couple things. And I'll try to mention quickly because I could talk for hours, Lee, so we're going to get as much in as we can. There's two things happening now. One is called run, hide, fight. And run, hide, fight has been around for, I don't know, 30 years or so. It was created by the Homeland Security Department, and there was a video done by Houston Police Department. And it's a really good video. You got a guy dressed all in black, he got a shotgun, he comes in, and you got the movie theater narrator saying, if he comes in. And it goes step by step what you should do. First thing you should do is run. If you had a chance to run. You run outside, someplace safe, call 911, you're good to go. If you can't, then you hide. Perfect. Locked door, under a desk, whatever you got to do. Third thing, if it comes to it, you got to fight. Like, okay, I'm an adult. I'll grab a chair, a fire extinguisher, whatever. This guy, if this happens, I have to stay alive. Somehow, this got transferred over to the school system. I sure as hell am not going to have 25 to 30, I don't care, first grade through fifth grade, through elementary or through middle school kids, running out of a perfectly safe classroom to where? Where are you going? And you're not the only class that's doing it. The whole school system's going to be doing it. And thirdly, I'm sure as heck not going to have a child fight against a gunman. This is not someone standing there with, something in his hand. He's got a gun in his hand, for God's sakes. So that is discounted. Second thing, there's a company called Alice, and it's all these acronyms. Everybody's got an acronym. And Alice has a marketing site, and you can go online and find it. It stands for Alert, Lockdown, Inform. I think it's Confront, and then Evacuate. Okay. Alert. I agree. Lee, you got to alert. You got to tell the school what's going on. Go over the PA system. There's an active shooter. There's a gunman in the school, whatever. Perfect. All right. Lockdown. Yep. That's exactly what you should be doing. Everybody locked down. The third thing is inform. Somehow they figured that someone within the school administrator is supposed to go over the PA system and inform you where the shooter is and where he's going. There's no camera system in existence that I know of. You can follow someone through the building from floor to floor. It doesn't exist. The C is confront. It might not be confront. It might be something else. But basically what it is that if this individual gets into your classroom, how they would get into the classroom if the door is locked, I don't know. But if they get in there, you are supposed to throw things at this gunman. Precisely. In the most terrifying moment of your young life, to throw a pencil, an iPad, a phone, something at this individual to distract them so they don't kill you, which makes absolutely no sense. And then the E is evacuate, which is the same thing, leaving the classroom. Look, two important things. Number one, no shooter in the history of all these active shooters has ever breached a locked door. It hasn't been done. They won't do it because, Lee, it takes too long. They're looking for easy victims. They want to move on. Perfect situation was Nashville. I don't know if you've ever seen that video. It's the one where the person comes in, there's glass doors. They shoot through the glass doors, and as you see them walking, they're checking the doors. It's locked, move on. It's locked, I move on. Open, I'm going in. So they're not gonna do that because, and I'll give you an example. I think it was 2005, 2006, up in Red Lake, Minnesota. They were on a Native American reservation. This kid shot his grandfather and killed him, shot his grandfather's girlfriend and killed him, then came to the school that he used to go to. He shot and killed the security guard. And guess why the security guard was in the front of the building? Because there were metal detectors there, which did nothing. So he goes to the school, sees a teacher go chasing after her. She goes into a locked classroom. He tries to bust that lock with 3 shots. 3 shots into that door. It still didn't open. Finally, he went around, he found a window and broke that and got inside. They finally killed him, but that was an example of they're not going to shoot through a locked door. So before I left my county system, I told them, I was adamant, keep the doors locked during class time. Easiest thing to do. Why not? And teachers would say, that they got to go to the bathroom, they got to go in the hall, they got to get up and open the door. And I'm like, no, tough. So what? You're already one step ahead in the lockdown. Lockdown, as you know, Lee, is very simple. The door is already locked. You turn the lights off. You close the blinds. The kids sit on the floor away from the door and window. You silence your phone. You do not listen to any announcements. And you sure as hell do not open that door for anything. I don't care what they're saying or what they're doing. You don't open that door. And that's it. The good guys are on their way. And that's why we haven't talked about my book. I call my book The First 5 Minutes. The FBI data shows most active shooter situations, most, I'm not going to say all, last between 3 to 5 minutes. Okay? So if you're in that classroom that's locked down, they're not coming in unless you're targeted. Whole different situation. If you're targeted, that is a different situation. If I got some angry husband that wants to shoot his wife who's a teacher, whole different situation. Because now you're targeted and he's going to try to get into that room. But you know what? There's a big-ass file cabinets. Those file cabinets are heavy as hell. You got a desk. Go up there and barricade it. But this idea that you're going to have children, 25 to 30, who probably are, number one, going to freeze, or number two, they're going to say, my daddy says, I stay here. I'm not supposed to go out in the hallway. We're supposed to stay here. Now you're going to take 25 or 30 kids out into what I call the death zone and go where? Where are you going? How do you know where the gunman is? I wouldn't. If I was in there, I'm a law enforcement. Even if I was carrying, I'm not leaving that classroom to go where? And I'm going to gather all these kids, 20, I'm responsible for them. And that's a lot what's happening in schools also, because they'll say, okay, we're not going to make it strict because every situation is different, but we're going to give teachers the option. We'll give you the option, Mr. Smith or Mr. Jones, to either run out of the classroom or stay here in the lockdown. So now you're going to put the liability on the teachers? Are you out of your mind? If I'm a teacher, I'm not thinking about liability. I'm thinking about keeping my kids alive and keeping myself alive. That's it. That's all I should be thinking about, not whether I'm going to leave this classroom because somebody told me or I saw a man with a gun like 100 feet away.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe there's another one. I have no idea. It's the basic thing, Lee, is to keep it simple as possible, and have the confidence that if something happens, you know what to do. But I'm telling you, Lee, I had an example in North County here, and it was an assistant principal who was very up on security. She always ran enough drills to make sure everybody ran it correctly. She'd have meetings, almost daily stuff she would have there, just really up on security. I really liked her. Anyway, she has a real incident that happens, and it was kind of weird. Across the street, there was a young kid who didn't like his mother's new boyfriend. So somehow he got hold of a weapon, and he started shooting up the house. Well, he's spraying and praying, so some of the bullets land over on the school across the street. They go into a lockdown, which is what they should have done. Now, it's a real situation. Police arrive. Everything's taken care of. Okay, let's calm down. We're going to have an after-action event. You always have an after-action meeting in any kind of event, whether it's a drill or whether it's a real thing. So she goes to the after-action meeting with the rest of her staff. She found out that 1/3 of her teachers, not substitutes, her veteran teachers, they froze. They didn't do anything. They just froze. So, Lee, no one knows how you're going to react in an emergency. You don't know how you're going to react. But at least if you can prepare for that fact, you'll have some kind of coverage, because it's something that I read this great book. It's called The Unthinkable. It's done by Amanda Ripley. She came out with an updated version. She used to write for the Times and Wall Street Journal. Anyways, in there, it basically just breaks it down, human reaction. And you and I know if something happens, what's the first thing you're going to think of? It's going to be denial. Oh, it's firecrackers. Oh, it must be a truck that backfired. Somebody dropped a bunch of books. I mean, that's your whole thought. It's denial. Nah, that can't be gunfire. There's no way. Second thing, you're going to deliberate. Now you're thinking, okay, I got to do something, but I don't know what, because your mind just went blank. You forget what day it is. You forget your name. You forget all this stuff. And then finally, the third thing, you finally make a decision because someone will step up. And it happened in 9/11. I don't have to go into all the examples of 9/11, but there was a lot of heroes there that saved a lot of people. But they went through that process of denial, and we all did. We looked at the TV going, shit, the pilot must have passed out or somebody got sick. And when that plane first hit, you're like, what the hell is that? Then finally when the second plane hit, you're like, okay, this is not good. So the same thing happened to the people there in 9/11. They were like, I feel the building shake. What was that? I don't know. And there were some forward-thinking people there that said, we got to get out. And what happens is 90% of the people, usually women, but 90% of the people have to take something, their purse, something from their desk, a coffee mug, something. It's just human nature. They have to take something with them. And then they finally got them down through the stairs. But that basically is kind of what happens in any of these emergencies, that, you're going to deny it first. And then secondly, somebody's got to take action, and then you got to make a decision. But my point is that when something like this happens, if you have the training and you drill enough, that's going to kick in. It has to. Not that you have to. I don't want people to panic and think about this all the time. There's no way I should have teachers going to school thinking today could be the day. No, you're not a police officer or a soldier. No, forget about that stuff. Just have it ready. You're going to have to flip the switch. I don't want you to be some paramilitary SWAT guy, but just you have to flip the switch going, okay, they call the lockdown. As soon as I hear that word lockdown, I know what to do. Classroom doors already locked. We're going to sit quietly. The good guys are on their way. And I'll tell you what, armed SROs, school resource officers, there's been a lot of conflict behind that, because once we had the pandemic and defund the police movement, all the students were, no, I can't look at a uniform. My cousin got arrested, or no, that scares me, or no. It's usually the parents that will get them back in there, because they are an advocate. They're not there to arrest you. They are not there to harass you. They are there to protect you if something happens. They go through intense training, almost as much as a police officer, even though they don't have but some have arrest powers. Because some police departments will use these guys as overtime. But down here in Florida, thank God, most of them are dedicated just to the school. That's all they do. They are just there to protect those kids and staff and be an advocate for the community. And like I said, they go through intense training. These people love what they do. Why else would they do it? I mean, it's something. And the Georgia. We don't have to talk that much about Georgia because there's still stuff going on. But every one of those SROs went. They all went. Nobody hesitated. Nobody hid. They went to that shooter.
Right.
And it turned out very well. I mean, they stopped him. He gave up. Why he gave up? Most don't usually give up, but they went. So I advocate try to stay away from technology. The metal detectors aren't going to save you. Your training, have the confidence to drill enough that you give teachers confidence, and definitely armed SROs in your school system, and you should be okay. I'm sorry,
right, Daniel.
I didn't have a chance to get.
That's a lot to unpack. That's a lot to unpack. I tell you, I did over 20 years in the military, and training. Right. When you get to I give you an example. We were in Bosnia. Nothing happened, thankfully, but we were in Bosnia. But while we were in Bosnia, we trained. It was called Trojan Horse, all day long. Trojan Horse, and we were on a FOB. A forward observation base. So we were like 45 minutes away from the nearest support from another camp that was in Bosnia. So one day, it was one night, 11:30. I just gotten off shift. I got into my room, took my stuff off, put my PT gear on, physical training gear on, and got into bed. Boom, 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 boom. Trojan Horse. And I was like, God damn, and then I opened the door. And the guy saw my face and he was like, this is for real. But the thing about it was, because we trained so much, you could see all the movement, but it was like organized chaos.
Yes.
Because it kicks right in and everyone knows what they're supposed to do. My role was to get all of the interpreters, all the foreign nationals, and get them in this bunker and secure them. Right. Everyone else, they would go and they set up a triage, they, did all of these different things, but it just worked. And I felt so calm in that situation. Now, the thing, and I just wanted to give that example on just reiterating the purpose of training and effective training. And I just wanted to ask you, just right off the bat, I know what it is, but what are some of the key elements of effective training programs? Because this is the military that I'm talking about. We're supposed to be that way. Now we're talking schools. Now we're talking teachers and people who aren't trained to do that. And you mentioned how some people freeze. It eventually kicks in. I always joke about the a zombie apocalypse and how the people who live are the people who can flip their mindset the quickest.
Yeah.
You talked about you denial, right? The people who can flip it really quick are the ones who are going to survive. So from your perspective, what are some key elements of effective training programs?
Well, I tell you, it's, again, I really wish some schools do not have a dedicated safety and security person. I mean, it's a shame that even my county just decided, we need to fill that position. Throw a teacher in there, let them go to admin. Yeah. So it's really behind the eight ball there. But if you have, there are certain counties within these states where they have dedicated people to do that. So you either, everybody checks the box. That's the one thing I always hated about this kind of thing, because when I was in that position, you go, okay, did you run a drill this month? Oh, yeah, we ran the drill and we checked these boxes. They checked the box. I would go there because I wanted to go to every one of them. I couldn't, of 140 schools, whatever. Whoever ran one, I said, I'm going to be there, okay? And I would watch how they would do it. And it's funny. I always liked unannounced drills, always, because you're going to see how they react. However, you get pushback because the parents would go, wait, my child came home and said you ran a drill. I didn't know anything about that. You have to tell me when they're going to run a drill, because I don't know if I want my child going through that because he felt scared or she felt scared. I said, oh, God, please. So anyway, what I did was, look, how about this? How about we make an announcement that sometime this week we're going to run a drill. We're going to run an active shooter drill. We don't know what day. I'm not going to tell you what time, but it will be this week. So Just be prepared. That's all. At least then you made the announcement. It's going to happen this week. We're good. So with that being said, the day of the drill, rumors always start because somebody opens their mouth. Oh, we're going to run the drill at 1 o'clock right after lunch. Well, guess what, Lee? It's human nature. They're going to pre-plan. They're going to close their blinds ahead of time. They're going to sit the kids on the floor. They're going to silence all before the drill's even being run. And you know why? Because these teachers are under so much pressure to get their homework, their tests, their grade levels, the school grade level, and their kids' grade levels to a certain level. If you're a D school, because it goes A, B, C, D, F, and you're getting pressure right at the beginning going, hey, we're a D school. We don't get to a B or a C. They're going to shut us down. You guys are out of a job. So you already got that pressure on you. So now you're going to be worried about some stinking drill. All you want to do is get it over with. And I understand. And sometimes, yes, I'm sure you were in training too, like, oh, God, we're doing this again. Can we just get this over with? I know what I'm doing. So, but so it's frustrating. The way I see it, and there's nothing like this, I wish, and I'm not making fun of it, but I wish there was a way to make it either more fun or more enjoyable or something you would get to. There's no way to do it. You have to run this as seriously as possible so you get it in your head. Okay, this is serious. I need to pay attention. I need to learn this, So it's gone back and forth. Fire drills are run once a month, every month. Lee, the last time we had a fire that hurt any children was 100 and something years ago out in Chicago, a long time ago. Nowadays, you've got sprinkler systems. You've got walls that protect you for 4 hours. You've got all kinds of stuff. There's no way a fire is going to kill a kid. So I said, well, can we do the active shooter drills once a month? Oh, no, they're up to the legislature. We can't do that. I'm like, all right. Let's try to do at least once a quarter. And with that way, again, try to run as unannounced as you can or as close as you can because you have to see how people react. You have to.
Right.
I've been to schools where I had substitute teachers. They didn't have a set of keys. They didn't have keys. So they couldn't lock the door because everything was key locked. Yeah. So as unbelievable as it is, they did the best they could. They actually held on to the door. So I'm going around, I'm the ghost because I would just go and just, pretend like I was, the active shooter and try the doors and bang on them and all this stuff. And I'm trying this door and it's kind of given. And I'm like, what the hell, is this door not locked? So here I am trying to open this guy here. He's on the other side trying to hold it. And I'm like, oh no. And I find out later she forgot her keys. That stuff's going to happen. You have to run these drills to find out what's wrong. And I found out from the beginning in Secret Service, the way you run things and if something goes wrong, it's bad, but let's fix it. I've gone to schools where they've announced over the PA system, hey, we got a lockdown. I found out later half the school didn't hear it because the other speakers were all out. You have to run these drills more often because no one's ever run a perfect drill. I think I maybe have 1 or 2 perfect drills in my entire career of the hundreds and hundreds that I've done. And it's okay to find things that are wrong because you have to fix them. But then you get to the human element. As long as these teachers are confident and that they know what to do, sit quietly, silence the phones, all this kind of stuff, I'm good. I would like to run it at least once a quarter, that way, because I do have principals that, and it's not nothing against them, but they would try to trick their people. Some of it was funny, some of it not so much, but it was a learning experience. I had an open school with an open courtyard. And he had run drills a bunch of times. And he went out in the courtyard with his bullhorn about halfway through the drill. And he says, it's okay. This is Principal so-and-so. The drill's over. Everybody come out back to school. All the teachers knew it was a trick because you don't listen to any announcements. When you're done with the drill, you go back and someone with a key is going to open that door. You don't just announce it. Anyways, all the senior teachers that have been through it were like, no, we're not going anywhere. There were 2 substitute teachers that stood up and said, okay. They opened the door, turned the lights on, but it was the kids. The kids all stood up and said, no, it's a trick. It's a trick. So
Yeah.
it's just something that you try to change it up a little bit, and the same thing to do with fire drills where they'll bring out a sign and say, this way is blocked. You got to figure out another way. Just a different way of thinking. I'm sure you did the same thing in the military. You couldn't run the same thing over and over again because after a while you're bored
Right.
out of your mind. So my thing is, look, you want to make the teachers confident. And after any one of these drills, we would all get together or have a safety meeting beforehand. Are you confident that if something happens here, I don't care, active shooter, weapon in a classroom, are you confident that you're good to go? You know what to do. And the majority of them do. But I tell you what, Lee, unless there's an incident like this in Georgia or next door or maybe the next state over, no, you're not thinking of it. Safety is about 20th on the list of things you got to do. And it's a shame.
Schools.
For me, I'm thinking that should be top 5. But most schools, they got so many other things going on. There's just so much other going on. They got to teach these kids. They got to get the grades up. You've got state tests, and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
there is no one answer. When I get on LinkedIn with the rest of the people that are in this business, for them, it is a business. I'm not in the business. I don't have my own website. I'm not selling anything. Yeah, I wrote a book. It's 77 pages long. You want to read it, fine. If not, it's not. I'm not in it for the money. For me, it's mostly about the message, and the message is to stay away from some of these companies that have you drill wrongly. It's unsound and a lot of it's dangerous. Lockdown is still the way to go. It's been that way to go since Columbine, and that's what you should be training your people to do.
So you wrote the book, First 5 Minutes, School Shooting Survival Guide for Administrators and Teachers. You hinted on, I'm sure a lot of what you've talked about already are things that you've articulated in the book, but what's an important message, one of the important messages that's in the books? And then what inspired you to write the book too?
Well, first off, and you probably already know this, I try to, again, with the training, get some kind of implicit memory, that muscle memory. It's just like, when you go to shoot. In the Secret Service, we were the only agencies that I know of. We had to qualify every month. Once a month, we had to go and qualify with that weapon. So after a while, it just became rote. You just point, shoot, go through the whole process. And that's kind of what I liked with the training of the teachers for the lockdown. Here's what you have to do, boom, 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 in order. After Uvalde in Texas, that disaster there with the police response, I was just so upset. My current wife just said, you gotta vent. You got to get something out there. So I just started writing, and I didn't want a 200 or 300 page edge of speak diatribe, boring, that's going to sit on a shelf and collect dust. I wanted something basic and just practical. Open it up, boom. Okay, that's it. I'm done. You can read it in an hour and a half. Just something very practical, easy, concise. I didn't need all the big words. I didn't need every scenario possible. There's no way you could put every scenario possible in a book. It would be 200-300 pages. Within that, and I'll show you this, it's a credit card size lanyard. You can put it on your lanyard. I got it laminated, but in the book, you can just download it. Anyways, on here, it's just a quick reference card. And the idea I got from it, I had a friend that worked in an emergency room as a doctor. And I showed it to her. I said, you think this is a good idea? And she goes, oh, yeah. She says, we got those all the time. I'm like, what are you talking about? She goes, hell, she says, one time they call the color purple. She says, I hadn't heard purple in months. I had to look on the card for what purple was. She says, so that was a good idea. It'll click in your head because, Lee, like I said, in an emergency, you're going to forget everything. I mean, you hope you do some of the basic stuff, but some stuff you're going to forget. So you look at the card. Oh, I forgot to pull the blinds down. Oh, I forgot to silence my phone, whatever it was. So it was just something quick that you could look at, have it on your lanyard, because most teachers, I would hope, have some kind of ID or something with their copier card hanging on their neck.
Right.
You got it right there, right quick. So, but after Uvalde, I had to write the book. And again, I wanted to put in there about implicit memory, which again, is just like putting on a seatbelt, tying a tie, buttoning a shirt. You don't really think about it. You just do it. Your body's used to it. So that's what I wanted for these emergency procedures. Same thing. You hear the word lockdown, boom. Like you said, flip a switch. I know what to do. Lights out, kids on the floor, silent. We're good to go. Good guys are coming. So that was basically it for writing the book.
Okay.
Just kind of venting on that, just getting that out of my
Yeah,
system.
yeah.
Going from there.
How can parents take further steps, I guess, to protect their children in these situations?
Lee, parents have a lot of power now, especially if you get together in a group. Don't go at it alone. See if you can find a group. I mean, there's Facebook groups out there. There's LinkedIn groups out there. If you find something, if you got a child that comes to you and says, hey, we ran a lockdown drill today and we were throwing things at the fake gunman, something in your gut should be like, holy moly. Usually a red flag can come up right away. They're having you do what? And immediately get together with other groups and parents, write something up. Most school boards, they will allow you 3 minutes. It doesn't sound like a lot, but you can get a good page and a half in 3 minutes in front of them and saying, I disagree with this. We should not be doing this. I do not want my child throwing things in a gunman. I don't want my child leaving a perfectly safe classroom to run out into God knows what. So if that doesn't work, now, I'm not saying that's the first thing you should do. Obviously, the first thing you should do is talk to the school, the principal, the teachers, whatever, and then go to the school board. After that, you got state legislatures. They like hearing this stuff. They want to hear from parents of what's going on. Every time there's a shooting, there should be something going to your state legislature. Now, you don't want to be on one end or the other end. I mean, forget about gun control. I don't talk about it. There's no reason to talk about it. Never going to happen. Don't even go there. I mean, you could sit there all day. Well, if we didn't have guns, this never would have happened. Really? All you got to do is do some research about Asian countries, South America, Europe. They all have all kinds of school violence. It's not just here in the United States. Asia, as you know, it's all knife attacks. They'll just, for whatever reason, that's what they use. They use knives. I had 2 girls down in South America and Brazil came in with backpacks with Molotov cocktails. They were going to blow up that school. And then they brought in some kind of machetes also. And they took out like 3 or 4 students. Over in Europe, you still got shootings going on. So this idea that we get rid of guns and, oh my God, we're going to be safe. No, they'll just use something else. I don't care. They'll use bombs. They'll use a freaking car to run you down. It doesn't matter. The gun's the one thing you could come up with, I guess, is numbers. They can get better numbers with, high-powered weapons. But no, that's not going to happen. So don't go there. Make it reasonable that here, this is how these drills should be run, and how to keep your kids safe. That's all. And the other thing is, schools already are doing this. But I'm finding out, Lee, when I talk to some of these guys on LinkedIn, we were talking about classroom door locks. And these guys were just thinking, oh, well, every classroom must have a door lock. No, you're making that assumption that some of them don't. You got some rural schools out there. They probably got swinging doors, for God's sakes, because they don't have the money. It's about the money. And I'll tell you right, don't spend your money, if any of these school systems, on technology. Okay, it's good to have cameras on your parking lot, areas that you could see someone coming in, or in the back where the teachers park, but don't spend it on metal detectors. Don't spend it on these supposed gun detection systems, these AI systems. Don't do that. Spend the money on your personnel and getting your training done and layering your school. It's a layered process. I'm sure you learned this in the military. You start with fencing, at least 6 foot high. You bring it into a lobby area, which is the only area that has a door. All your other doors in a school should be closed, locked, shut down. One entrance to the school only, one. You bring them into a secure lobby area. You check them in. If they are allowed, they're either keyed in, buzzed in, or escorted in. If they're not allowed in, they got one way to go, back out. So you have a layered approach. And then once they get in, those classroom doors are locked. So as you know, you want to delay that shooter. If something happens, you want to slow them down for the police response to be there. Or if you got SROs, they're already there. So it's not that it doesn't cost you a lot. It doesn't cost much, hardly anything to get the training to keep kids safe. That's just the way it is.
That's true. All right. So you gave us a lot.
I did.
I didn't get to ask you many questions, but I appreciate all the information, the examples, the experience.
Well, you better have me on
that's
again.
The key thing. Yeah, I'm gonna have to. but is there anything that you'd like to add that you haven't discussed so far today?
No, I tell you what, Lee. The one thing I always like to leave the audience with is in any type of emergency, always keep yourself safe first. Then you can help others. We've had plenty of incidents from Sandy Hook to Parkland, to Nashville, to Iowa. I don't know if they hopefully didn't do it in Georgia, but you have plenty of incidents where principals or some administrator will go out and try to challenge the shooter, and they get shot, critically injured,
They get
dead.
shot.
Like,
Yeah.
what are you doing? No, keep yourself safe first. Then you're going to be able to help others. You want to be safe as much as possible. Then you're going to be able to help your kids. Don't go out there being a hero, thinking you're going to talk this individual down. Everybody's going to be safe. You're good. No, because you're not going to go home that night. So just keep yourself safe. The good guys are coming. Then you're going to be able to help others. That's all.
Hey, so how can the listeners, the watchers, connect with you and learn more about your work and your book?
Yeah, the book is on Amazon. You type in the first 5 minutes, it should come up in like the first 5 or 6 things. Like I said, it's only 77 pages. It's not that expensive. I'm on LinkedIn. I know the last name's kind of weird, but I'm there on LinkedIn. I got a Facebook page. The first 5 minutes also has a Facebook page. My email address is on there. Any questions, I would be happy to answer any questions you have that you're concerned about. And Lee, you'll just have to have me back. In fact, you can have a panel if you want. We can do that. That'd be kind of neat.
That would be kind of neat. I'm going to have to hold you to that.
Yeah.
I like that.
Okay.
All right. Hey, Daniel, thank you so much for sharing your insights and expertise on this important topic, especially in these day and ages.
Yeah.
Your dedication to school safety is truly inspiring. And I know that your message will resonate with the listeners and provide them with valuable information. And for the listeners, if you're interested in learning more about school safety or Daniel's work, be sure to check out his book, The First 5 Minutes School Shooting Survival Guide for Administrators and Teachers. All right. And don't forget to subscribe to Hindsight the Podcast so you don't miss any future episodes. And until next time, stay safe and keep learning. I'll talk to you soon. Hey, thanks for joining me here on Hindsight the Podcast. I'm your host, Lee Jones. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I know I did. And while I have you here, why don't you take your mouse, go over and click on that subscribe button. No, not right there. Over to the right. Down, right there. Boom. Thank you. Now, thank you for subscribing to Hindsight the Podcast. I'm your host, Lee Jones.